Welcome to On Paper with Keath, where on paper everything looks all right, but we all know how that really works out. Part of the Unblocked Podcast Network. I'm back with my man Aaron from Run and Try, who is lucky enough for us to sponsor this show. All go see him for all your good stuff. He'll take care of your feet better than anybody in town. So, Ryder Cup review. It was awful. Not much more you can say that. Europeans scored 16.5 points to the USA's 11.5, and that was lucky to get that even. So we're going to kick off real quick with 5 words or less about this Ryder Cup. Aaron, what you think?
Oh, that's all right. 5 words or less. Let's go with disappointed, disrespected, downright awful.
There you go. I only need 4, and that is good vibes don't last. We were flying high. I'm not sure if we took it for granted off that Whistling Straits Ryder Cup, but it was everyone was really together on that, and then a lot's happened in 2 years in golf, but it was ugly. I don't know if you stayed up, tried to get up early for it, or stayed up late, woke up early, but I know I went to bed with I put on the Sky Sports feed with a dodgy app I've got and put that on about 10 o'clock at night before I went to bed. That way I knew whenever I'd wake up, grab a glass of water or whatever, I could always peek in and see what was going on. And I got to see the whole thing progress. And then by 4 or 5 o'clock, when I got up to start making breakfast, you just saw 4-0 on that score sheet. And it was just brutal.
Yeah. Wasn't a good start to that Friday.
No, I mean, and the afternoon, we were lucky to salvage what we did, truth be told. So, anyway, or go ahead, please.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, to go down so quick 4-0 on Friday. I tried to get up around 1:30, 1:45, watch a little bit. I was trying to stay awake, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go back to sleep. I'm gonna wake up and maybe see some action. Hopefully, see us make a little comeback, looking better. No, just woke up to a progression of the same start. So it was tough.
Exactly. So, well, that leads me into my first point. Were we really prepared for this? Like I said in my 5 words or less, we were riding high off Whistling Straits, and we go back to European soil for the first time in 5 years. But what do you think? Were we prepared? Did the guys kind of have the right mentality for this?
From listening to the announcers, throughout Friday and through the weekend, 2 things that I heard repeated multiple times that in the beginning I was like, oh, this isn't a big deal. But the more I heard it, and then the more I looked into it, it makes sense. The first being a lot of guys took like 5-6 weeks off before the Ryder Cup, and didn't really play well at the Ryder Cup, obviously. I mean, until maybe the singles where we're known to play well, but I feel like a 5-week gap is pretty big. You don't see guys take 5 weeks off before majors. You don't see a lot of guys take 5 weeks off and just win a tournament. And the second thing that stood out to me was, Europe has the ability to set that course up to their advantage, no different than when it's played in the United States. And, the U.S. team can set it up to our advantage. But they set up a lot of those holes to be risk reward off the tee, where we were less accurate on narrow fairways, just statistically versus Europe. And then also we were worse as a team, even going into the tournament or into the matches from 170 yards and out. And if you look at a lot of the approaches where the guys were forced to lay up, they were 170, 175, 180. And then Europe was a stronger team from that distance, statistically on paper. So the golf course was set up for them to do just that. And that includes the par threes.
Yeah, you brought up that, the way it looked distance-wise and all looked to be a fairly shorter course, which I think overall it was until you got to the 18th hole.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, they could just take advantage of everything. And it was a bomber's treat out there if you could be accurate.
Right, and if you get it that way. Yeah.
Which I think normally for Europeans is a little more And I think Luke Donald, you look at their team captain, I mean, he rose to world number one based on being accurate. He was never the longest hitter, never the best putter, but his short game and off the tee, he could just keep putting the ball where he needed to and give himself the best opportunity to go forward from there.
For
So,
sure.
what about I mentioned Luke Donald. Like I said, I think he was a fantastic pick for the European team. He knows that tournament. He knows match play. He knows how to, grind it out. Again, just because his playing style, he's not going to be the lowest scorer always. He's not going to be the longest hitter, but he's just technical. And against Zach Johnson, who for the U.S. isn't too bad of a comparison. Again, not the longest hitter. Very technical player, but captain and captain's picks. What'd you think there?
What do I think about the captain or the captain's picks?
Both.
Both. Vocally, I feel like Zach Johnson was a little soft, but that's also a very hard position to be in if you don't have a little fire behind you. That fire behind you comes from points, and took us a while to get some points on the board. So maybe the only thing I didn't like that Zach did was he didn't shake up day two's pairings. You usually see that to try to gain some points or gain some momentum, that if people on day one didn't play well together, other than if they historically have a partnership of scoring points, that you shake it up. You put two firehouses together. You put a weaker guy from day one, or you put a guy that was supposed to be a weaker guy on day one that performed. On day two, you make him a leader. It gives him a chance to shine. So I didn't like that in the first 2 days, that we didn't see enough jumbling around of possible lineups.
I think we saw what we all expected, which with JT's pick. Now, JT did play a couple tournaments leading into the Ryder Cup, so credit to him, making sure he was trying to be as fresh as possible. But there was a talk about JT being in the guys club, and you saw it right away. The pairings he was always with were his buddies, so it was all a good feeling in the group. It was so much, you and I going out there just almost like a Sunday at Azalea City instead of, we're here on a Monday qualifier at Magnolia Grove trying to beat each other. So it just kind of, again, the captain's picks went, I think, like 4-12 or 4-11-1 or something like that. But I think the whole team is just didn't really have that fire. You look at, we suffered
the fire
worst.
didn't come until it was too late either.
And on Sunday there was glimmers of hope, but you look at Saturday. We lost that one match. What, 9-7?
Yeah, that was tough.
Just brutal. Just no intensity, nothing there, and was there Rory and LaCava and all that? Either way, just credit for him to actually giving some fire. That was the biggest leader on our team, was Joe LaCava doing the little dance with his hat and just getting in Rory's face. That fired up the team more than anybody.
I did catch on to where a lot of guys weren't wearing hats on Sunday.
Yeah,
I felt like that was kind of like a rally cap with no cap.
Exactly. Yeah, but that was the biggest rallying cry of the whole team. There was never, you hear all the locker room stuff here and there, which it's no surprise. It's kind of always a bit of, those guys sometimes might always, if they're not completely unified, which I think Europe was, we both said the European team has the better team unity and the team chemistry going forward. But, it's just disappointing. And going about that team, 2 years from now, we'll be at Bethpage Black. I think the captain's picks are all pretty much, we won't see again unless they have a major resurgence and start finishing top 10 in the FedEx Cup rankings. Who do you see coming back in 2 years?
I foresee, even though Justin Thomas was a captain's pick, I can't see him having another bad year like that. He'll probably be back for the right reasons as opposed to the captain's pick. Um, as much as I love Rory, or as much as I love Ricky, Ricky had such an outstanding year to even give himself a chance to be that captain's pick. That'll be tough for him to do. I'm having a brain fart. Was Max Homa a captain's pick or not? He
I don't believe so, but I can go
I don't
pull
think
that
he
real quick.
was. I think I just picked him on the boom versus bust as a boom, and I feel like he played well.
Let's see here.
I have
Type
to
in
Google it.
USA. That would probably help. Let's see. Sam Burns, Ricky Fowler, Brooks Koepka, Morikawa, Jordan Spieth, and Justin Thomas. I mean, outside of
Oh well, Burns played well. Burns had some
Burns played
fire.
well. He's
Yeah,
still up and coming, I think. I think Jordan Spieth and JT and Ricky, unless they just have a Ricky, I think has the I'm sorry, I would say Justin and Jordan have the better chance of having a revitalization to their
right,
careers before Ricky does.
for sure.
Colin is still young, but
Well,
again,
that's kind of, I guess that's one thing about our whole team. If you could shuffle the cards for USA and any of those guys that earned it, and any of those guys who were captain's pick, it could be just the other way around come next year. I mean, they're all great players. So it's a lot of young faces. I think we said it the first time around, gone are the days of, obviously there's no Tiger, there's no Phil. We don't have Dustin Johnson. We have the Live Golf in the mix. Maybe it'll fire up some of these guys from Live to play like Koepka did and fight their way, despite what league they're in, into the Ryder Cup.
Yeah. All right. Well, then in that case, now let's just go by these captains' picks. So, say you had coming up, if say Colin, Jordan, Ricky, and Justin all came up as a captain's pick potential, don't qualify on their own points. They can only get on for a captain's pick. But like we saw, they weren't all the hottest players at the time. Do you think the next captain still picks them
Ooh, that's
if they're an
tough.
outsider looking in?
I guess because it's one of those tournaments that has history, being back on United States soil, they have a better chance of being the people that are captain's picks than if we were back in Europe for another year. Because now their history is bad in Europe, their history is better in the United States. That might be a dividing line. And then obviously they still have to have decent years of golf to even be considered. I don't want to see 4 borderline guys with, I guess, a bad history just make it because of the Good Boys Club again.
Yeah. I think if it comes down to anything weird, again, Brooks Koepka should just show up with his scorecards from the U.S. Open and Bethpage Black.
Yeah, that's
and be
true.
like, here's my credentials. This is what I have done to like Tiger Woods showing up to Pebble Beach. I did this to this course in a U.S. Open. So, anyway, all right. Well, this wasn't going to be long because there's not much good times. We can talk about a whole lot more, but I appreciate you for jumping on. And
Absolutely.
I want to thank Run and Try for sponsoring the show again. And I'm just going to retire back here and see if my Bears can blow another massive lead, which they're doing their best at so far. Washington just scored and going for 2. So, yay. The flag's upside down for a reason behind me. And rest in peace, Dick Butkus. And we'll
I saw that today.
Yeah, that's a tough one, but well, they didn't get the 2-point conversion. So all right, we'll end it on that. That's a good note there. So Freeze, thanks for joining me, and I will see everyone
Absolutely.
again next time with On Paper with Keath.